بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد إن خير الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى رسول الله محمد بن عبد الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Inshallah, I want to take this opportunity today to reflect upon what happened with the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa radiyallahu anhum ajma'een, and what continues to happen with the people right now in relationship to the way people come into the deen of Islam. As Allah has commanded in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu udkhulu fi silmi kaffatan wa la tattabi'u khutuwati shaytan innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. There's a command, this ayat of the Quran, where Allah Azza wa Jal commands mankind, the believers, He said, enter into the fold of Islam wholeheartedly and don't follow the footsteps of a shaitan. Verily, shaitan is an open and avowed enemy to all of you. So when these ayat were revealed, when the Prophet brought them, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people embraced Islam from the companions in different ways. And today, people continue to embrace Islam the same way. No one's going to come into this religion in a way that the companions didn't come into the deen. And there are a number of them. Hopefully, we'll be able to get through all of them in the next 35 minutes. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this is so that everyone can consider the role and the responsibility that he has individually, everybody sitting here. Because, as you're going to see, people embraced Islam because of other people. They embraced Islam because of the efforts of the other companions or the efforts of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we shouldn't look at this issue and consider it and we're detached from the issue. It's just theory. No. It's being mentioned so that we can know the role that we have to play in helping people to embrace Islam. Because on our streets where we live, there are people who are non-Muslim, Sikhs, white people, and other than that, people who we work with, we go to school with, people we see on a daily basis, we know them, they know us, and we have a role to play in giving them dawah. We have relatives who are Muslims, but a lot of times their Islam is even in doubt, either because of the way they're practicing or the way they understand the religion. So even in this case, with people who are already Muslims, what we're going to mention is important in their regard as well. First thing that I want to mention, from the ways that the people embraced Islam during the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was due to the fact that he had good character. Simply, he had good character. Sometimes he didn't even give people da'wah ilallah. They just saw him and they embraced the religion. Allah Ta'ala mentioned about him in the Quran in Surah Al-Najm, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. You have been placed upon a high level of khuluq, ya Muhammad. No one can come from the kuffar during his time or now and say, Muhammad, he hijacked the plane. Muhammad, he robbed the people of the money. Muhammad, he was a radical. He was an extremist. Muhammad did this or he did that. He made a promise and he broke his promise. No one can do that. He even summarized his dawah in the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ala innama bu'ithtu li'utammim makharim al-akhlaq. I have been sent to perfect the character. That's the reason why I've come. So he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, showed the importance, and to talk about the position of good character in the deen in and of itself is an important issue, but we don't have time for that. That's not the goal and the objective here. Look what happened with the man who became a Muslim. He was a Jew. His name is Abdullah ibn Salam. He was a Jew. And the Jews of his tribe, They hated al-Islam and they hated the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they were the last Jews to be expelled from al-Medina. They were terrible, terrible bunch of people. They wanted to drop the rock on the head of the Nabi. They told him, come, we want to have a negotiation with you. Come, let's have a meeting. And they had some people up on the top of the roof. They agreed, when he comes to the door, we're just going to drop the rock on his head, the bolt, and smash and kill him. Jibril came to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and informed him of that. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon that told them, you have to get out of Medina, but only after they broke the contract. So Kuffar can't come now and say, he expelled the people out of the land, he stole our land. No, they broke the contract. Anyway, this particular man, Abdullah ibn Salam, he was a Jew, he was from the ulama, the scholars of the Jews, and we have to keep in mind what Allah said about the Jews in the Quran. وَلَتَجِدَنَّ أَشَدَّ النَّاسِ عَدَاوَةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الْيَهُودِ وَالَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا. You will find those people who have the most hatred, enmity, and animosity for those who believe, the people of the Tawheed in Islam. They are the Yahud and the people of Shirk. If a person is on Tawheed, people of Judaism, they hate Tawheed, and people who have Shirk, even some Muslims who have Shirk, they hate the call of Tawheed. So you have to keep that in your mind in terms of this man, Abdullah ibn Salam. He said, in what was collected by Imam al-Bukhari, I came to listen to what Muhammad was saying, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, when I came and I saw the people sitting around and I looked at his face, before he said a single word to me, he said, I knew that he had the face of a man who didn't lie. He had the face of a man who didn't lie. So, that had an impact on him. Because now the man is going to listen to what the Nabi has to say. He's going to say to the man, you know the religion that you're upon, that you grew up upon, in your culture, it is astray and it's not correct. Say La ilaha illallah, and then he's going to tell him new things, asking that man to change his way. Now if the man looks at you and says, you're a liar, you're kadhab, he's not going to be prepared to change his life, his religion, just because you said it, and he sees that the Muslim taxi driver is a liar. He sees that the Muslim co-worker is a liar. He sees that the Muslim who he works for, he does a simple thing like he washes his window. He washes his window. When he comes for the money, they say next week, next week, next week, and they owe the guy right now, the revert Muslim, they owe him right now 2,000 pounds. Next week, next week, next week. Now if he was a non-Muslim, how are you going to give him dawah in Allah and expect that man to say, when you say Al-Islam is the truth, the man's going to say, yeah, I believe you. He's going to say, you're kadhab. So the position that the Prophet ﷺ placed the akhlaq at, and the way that we act and the way that we behave, and no one is perfect. No one can claim to be perfect. But the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a perfect specimen, and he showed us the example of the role that character plays in giving da'wah to Allah. And as I said, the Muslim children who are in school, if we're going to say to the non-Muslim teacher, the headmistress, or anyone else in the school, Al-Islam and our religion is the truth, and it's the best way. When they look at us and the way we behave, our akhlaq, they say, you may say that with your lisan, with your tongue, but the reality of it is other than that. If Muhammad and his religion was the best religion, then why you people acting the way that you act? So that's how people came into Islam during the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, without hearing anything. They just saw him in his face. Number 2, they came into the deen of Allah based upon knowledge and ma'rifah. They studied the religion before coming into the deen and embracing Islam. And usually, when a person accepts Islam after conviction and knowing what he was doing and why she did it, usually they won't go out of Islam. One of the ways that people came into Islam is like all of you. You were born in the religion. You inherited the deen. Like the family, the companions, their children came into the religion. And that's one of the reasons why your parents have a special place in your lives. Because look at the non-Muslims who are around here, the Sikh building over there. If your parents did not gift unto you al-Islam, there's no promise that you would have embraced the religion. But the fact that you were born and your name is Bilal and Ahmed and Izhar and whatever it happens to be, and you heard about Salat and all of these issues, and you grew up like that, that was a tremendous gift that the parent gave to the individual. So they get those special positions in the religion. But the point that I want to make here is people embrace the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, based upon al-ma'rifah. I know people were born in the religion, raised up in the religion, but they never learned the religion. So when Ramadan comes, they don't know it's Ramadan. If you ask them how to pray, they don't know how to pray. My name is Bilal, but that's just how it is. The person who learns and he embraces Islam based upon conviction, usually he stays in the religion, usually. As for those reverts who come to religion because the girl he wants to marry is a Muslim, or the man that she wants to marry is a Muslim, or the Muslims give them some help, and then when the winds of adversity blow, they leave the religion, and that's a different issue. They came into Islam based upon knowledge. And there are many examples of that. Many examples. One example is the example of the king of Ethiopia, the Najashi. May Allah be pleased with him. He has a tremendous story. Long hadith. I can't go through all of the hadith because the time doesn't allow, but it's a famous incident where some of the Muslims left Mecca and they migrated to Ethiopia. The first migration of Hijrah was to Ethiopia. Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl, Abu Sufyan, when they were kuffar, Abu Sufyan was a kuffar along with Abu Lahab and those guys, they said, go and get those people and bring them back, Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan went. When those few Muslims heard that they were coming, they said, we're going to be in trouble. Those kuffar Quraysh, Abu Sufyan and them, they went to the Najashi. They said that this man Muhammad, where we come from, he's making a lot of fitna. He's causing the father to fight with the son, the mother to fight with the daughter. He's changing the religion of the forefathers. He's doing this, he's doing that. The Najashi, being a just Christian ruler, he said after he had their side of the story, he called the Muslims. The Muslims could have put anyone there to speak on their behalf, but that wasn't what the companions used to do. They used to always put the most knowledgeable person forward to speak. Not like some of the groups today, you become a Muslim last week, and now after you go out in 40 days, you're giving a bayan to the people, and you don't really know too much about the deen. It's not the correct way. They put forth Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. He's the brother of Ali ibn Abi Talib. The man said, what do you have to say? What is this man calling to Muhammad? He said, yes, he did, as they said, cause the son to be split from the father and the mother to be split from the daughter, and other than that. But why? It happened because in our society, the strong used to devour the weak. We used to worship other than Allah. We used to bury our daughters alive. We used to do this, we used to do that, and just named all of these things. The man said, do you have anything that has been revealed to this man who's claiming that he's a prophet and a Nabi? Ja'far ibn Abi Talib could have read any ayah of the Quran. He could have read the ayahs of jihad. He could have read the ayahs of divorce. But in front of him was a man who was a Christian. So he started reading ayat from Surah Maryam about the story of Isa ibn Maryam. He came to the recitation on the ayat that Allah Ta'ala said, قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالَوْا إِلَى كَلِمَةٍ سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ أَلَّا نَعْبُدُ إِلَّا اللَّهَ وَلَا يَتَّخِذْ بَعْضُنَا بَعْضًا أَرْبَابًا مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ. Say to them, أَيْ أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ, if you don't want to accept all of what I mentioned about Isa ibn Maryam, then Allah said, come to a word that is agreeable between us and you. And that is that we only worship Allah and we don't take each other as lords along with Allah. The man said, upon hearing all of those ayahs of Isa ibn Maryam and the miracle of his birth, the man said, the same thing that you have just recited is the same source that was sent down to Isa and Musa before him, and because of the knowledge that the man had about that already, he embraced al-Islam. Despite the fact that he had a lot of money and he had position, and usually these people don't embrace Islam a lot of times, but because the man had background knowledge and he heard what was in agreement with his book already, he embraced Islam. And there are many examples of that, many examples. Another companion is Salman al-Farisi. especially you younger brothers, especially you younger brothers, but not just the younger brothers, everybody here. I would advise you to go back and to read the story of the Islam of Salman al-Farisi, who came from Persia. His mother and his father was rich. His father had a lot of money. And Salman al-Farisi was his responsibility to keep the fire lit for the gods that they worship. Salman al-Farisi started to ponder and he thought, this is not going to work. He left those people in search of knowledge. He left those people. He came upon this man who was, or a group of people sold him. Or he came upon a guy who was a Christian and he embraced Christianity. Started taking care of the guy who was a Christian, the monk. He used to see that the monk would get the money from the people and steal the money. And then inside of the house he would drink khamr. And he was a liar. Salman al-Farisi saw it with his own eyes. This man says one thing, he does another thing. His character is not consistent with what he's saying. He said, this is not the truth. Then he started to hear about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he decided he has to go out in order to look for him. Wanted to get knowledge. In the process of that long story, some people came and they put Salman al-Farisi into slavery. Long story, you have to go and read the story for yourself. He was put into slavery and sold to a man who was in Al-Medina, a Jew. And he used to hear the Jews talking that there's going to come a Messiah. Someone is coming. And he used to hear that. And he said, this is the man I was looking for when I was a Christian. Anyway, one day Salman al-Farisi radiyallahu anhu, he was up in the tree. Some other Jew came and talked to his master, and they were talking about, there's a man here who's saying he's a Nabi. Salman started listening. He fell out of the tree. He said to the man, what happened? He had that courage to find out about the truth, irregardless of who was around him with power would hear about it. So what did you say? Who's here? His master slapped him and said, it's none of your business. Salman al-Farisi, he went out, he went to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam one day. He was with his companions. He came to him knowing three things. He had previous knowledge. He knew the sign of the Nabi, the Messiah, was number one, if you give him a gift, he'll take the gift. But if you give him sadaqah, he won't take the sadaqah, because Ahlul Bayt, they do not take the sadaqah. And the third thing is that he will have the mark of prophecy on his back. Salman al-Farisi radiyallahu anhu, as a non-Muslim, came to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he gave him some food and he said, Ya Muhammad, this is sadaqah for you. Sadaqah. You're the Imam and the leader of Ahlul Bayt. You're Sharif. You're from Quraysh, the Imam. And some people from Ahlul Bayt, some people Sharif, they're racist and they say that the Sharif can only marry the Sharif. The Sayyid can only marry the Sayyid. And they think they're better than others. They have a position in the deen. No doubt about that. The Sayyid is not like the non-Sayyid. That's our religion. We have to believe that. That's the religion. And one of the ways that the Sayyid is not like everyone else is not permissible for the Sayyid to beg. He shouldn't beg and he shouldn't ask people, give me money. The Nabi saw his grandson, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hussein, picked up a date, a small date, a date that was from sadaqah. He was about to eat the date. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon seeing that, said to the boy, bah, to get his attention. The boy left. He said to the son, ألا تعلم أننا نهينا عن أوساخ الناس? Don't you know? The little boy, don't you know? We, Ahlul Bayt, we've been prohibited from taking the dirt of the people. The dirt of the people meaning when you give sadaqah, the reason why you give sadaqah is that sadaqah cleans up the money that you have. The other money that stays with you, you give the sadaqah and the sadaqah cleans up that money. So it's the dirt of the people. It's not befitting for someone who's a Sayyid or Sharif to come and beg as we have all the time. On one hand, he's proud and arrogant in terms of being a Sayyid, but on the other hand, he compromises what it is to be a Sayyid, and he doesn't live up to that high standard. Ala kullin, he gave the Nabi the sadaqah. The Nabi told his companions, this is for you, from his good akhlaq. He could have taken that sadaqah and given it to someone from his friends or his family. I'm not going to eat it, but he gave it to someone from his friend and his family, his relatives. He gave it to his companions. Salman al-Farisi said, that's one. He came back the next day, he said, Ya Muhammad, this food is for you. It's a gift. The Prophet ﷺ took the food. He told the people, come and eat it with me. Another character that shows us he was on the high standard of character. He wasn't stingy. He could have said, this is my food. I'm going to take it home and just deal with it with my family. He gave it to the people who ate with the people. Salman said, that's number 2. He came the 3rd day in search of knowledge. The 3rd day. He didn't just sit at home waiting for knowledge to come to him, to be revealed to him. The 3rd day he came, and the Prophet saw him trying to look behind the Nabi. Rasulullah, being the intelligent man that he was, he knew what Salman al-Farisi did the 2 previous days. He was testing Rasulullah, which goes to show the permissibility of testing the one you're taking knowledge from. You want to know what the person is on? Not in a negative way, not in a dirty, nasty way, not in a disrespectful way. You may know the answer to a question, but you want to see if this guy has some hocus-pocus aqidah. So you ask him a question, not to embarrass him, not to expose him, for your own self. The people of the past, before they would take knowledge from people, they wanted to know, where did this individual study and who did he study from? That's part of the minhaj that the companions and the tabi'in, the atba' tabi'in were on. If someone comes today and they say, for an example here, so-and-so is coming to speak, and you ask the question, where did he study and who did he study with? You are in your right to ask that question. In any masjid, where did this person study from? Al-Imam Ibrahim al-Nakhai. He said, if someone came to teach us the tabi'een, teach us the deen, we wouldn't take any knowledge from him until we first looked at his guidance, how he was. Did he eat with his right hand or his left hand? Did he drink standing up? Did he have a beard? Things like that. How did he pray? We used to look at his salat, and we used to look at his general nature. They said, if he was okay, we would take it. If he wasn't okay, we wouldn't take it. Anyway, Salman al-Farisi tested the Nabi, not in a negative way. The Prophet ﷺ told Salman al-Farisi, is this what you're looking for, Salman? And he showed him the mark that was on his back. Salman said, yes, I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship but Allah, and I bear witness that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, you Muhammad, ya Abdullah and Rasulullah. So the point is, people back then and now come into the deen based upon knowledge. So what is that connected to us? Some of the people now were involved in giving dawah on the internet, and a lot of times the dawah on the internet with Christians and Jews and atheists and evolutionists, sometimes you'll find the Muslim just fighting the people, just trying to win the argument. Some of these people, they appreciate knowledge. They appreciate knowledge. They have background knowledge. It's the responsibility of the Muslim to give dawah to these issues, making the issues clear for people to have appreciation for the fact that Islam is the deen of the truth. So that's 3, actually 4 that we mentioned. People came into the deen of Allah based upon the akhlaq of the Nabi. And not just Prophet Muhammad, the akhlaq and the character of the Muslims. When the Arabs traveled to Indonesia and Malaysia and all of those places, the majority of the Muslims in the world today are in that area. They became Muslims because of the akhlaq of the tujar of the Muslims, the businessmen of the Muslims. They were honest. They used to fast. They used to pray. They saw their religion being practiced every day. Now, and we're just recapping right now, in this room right now, not to put anyone down. Our children, if they all go to the same school in this room right now, if all of our children go to the same school, in that school there are kuffar teachers. Our wives go to drop the children off, to pick the children up. When the non-Muslims look at our women, they don't get an idea what's the correct way that the Muslim woman dresses. Because we're given different messages. Even more important than dressing. Let the non-Muslim come and visit different masjids in Birmingham. He goes to this masjid and he'll walk away from that masjid believing that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a deity that never died. He deserves to be worshipped along with Allah. He goes to the other masjid over here. This masjid doesn't like that masjid over there, and they believe something opposite of what they believe. And on and on and on. He goes to another masjid, or a group of Muslims he finds in this area here, and they're telling him, you know, you're kuffar, we can kill you, we can blow you up, and this is jihad, and so forth and so on. So the people, They came into the deen based upon the akhlaq of the Muslims, based upon the knowledge, and also based upon, as I mentioned, how you people became Muslims. Due to the fact that they were born in al-Islam. People came into the religion during the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam another way. They came into the deen based upon a nikah, and they continued to come into the deen based upon a nikah. Getting married is one of the doors that lead people into the religion of al-Islam. The man meets a lady who is a Muslim and he's interested in her, and she holds her ground and says, I'll marry you, but you have to become a Muslim. That happened with Sulaym. Sulaym was the mother of Anas ibn Malik, one of the big scholars from the companions. He was young when the Nabi came to Al-Medina. Sulaym radiallahu anha was approached by one of the rich noblemen of Al-Medina, Abu Talha. He had more money than everyone in Medina. He said, you're a virtuous woman, I want to marry you. She said, you're the type of man, Abu Talha, no woman in her right mind will reject you, but I'm going to reject you because you're a mushrik and I'm a Muslimah. But if you say La ilaha illallah, if you say La ilaha illallah, I make that my dowry and I'll marry you. That lady by herself, maybe we'll talk about her one time. The things that lady did, again, that's an individual in addition to Salman al-Farisi. Go back and read about Sulaym. Your father, Sulaym, when the Prophet came to Al-Medina, she took her son, he was only 10 years old. How old are you, little man? 12. How old are you? 9. Her son Anas ibn Malik was 10 years old. She took the boy to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, my boy Anas, he is an intelligent boy. Let him serve you in your private affairs. And the boy stayed with the Nabi to take care of him. When he woke up at night, the boy would fetch the water for wudu. He would fetch the water so the Nabi can relieve himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would hold the curtain to shield the Nabi from being seen when he would relieve himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He saw how the Prophet was when everyone else was outside of the home. So he narrated to us a lot of the sunnah. He said, I took care of the Nabi for 10 years. He came to Medina when I was 10 and he died when I was 20. He said he took care of him for 10 years. Never did the Nabi say to me, why did you do this for something that he did? Or why didn't you do that for something that he didn't? That was Sulaym who took her son to the madrasa of al-Islam. She saw the importance of Islamic education. Anyway, the man accepted her proposition and he said, La ilaha illallah, and he became a Muslim. Someone may say, what about that hadith? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Everyone, his deeds will be judged by his niyyah. And whoever's niyyah was to make hijrah for some money or some woman, then that's what his hijrah is for. Didn't this man accept Islam because of the lady? He accepted Islam because of the lady. But he has sincerity, and the proof of that is he took all of his money and he gave it to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, this money is for you and Allah. And the ayat of the Quran was revealed because of him. Allah mentioned in the Quran because of that man. He says subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَن تُؤْمِنُوا حَتَّى تَصَدَّقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. You will never gain complete faith until you give freely from that which you have. That man came and said, Ya Rasulullah, this is the best land that I have. All of this land is for you and Allah and you. So that shows the man was sincere. If he was a munafiq, just for the woman, he wouldn't have given anything. So the point is, he accepted al-Islam because the lady married him. She didn't compromise her religion. She didn't compromise her religion. I know a family, a historical family here in Birmingham. They were Sikhs, mother and 3 daughters. The 3 daughters became Muslim. 2 of them are twins, and the other one became a Muslim. They're all married, they're all practicing. The mother is close, inshallah. She says, MashaAllah, Salamu Alaikum. She got upset with her daughter when she wanted to get married recently, and when she complained to me, she said, my daughter didn't even make Salat al-Istikhara. That's what the Sikh mother said, because she's been exposed to all of this Islamic terminology. There are Muslims who don't know Salat al-Istikhara, and they never heard of that. The lady is close to Islam. But what's the reason why I'm mentioning this to you? Her boyfriend is an Asian Muslim. Her boyfriend is an Asian Muslim. Her boyfriend is an Asian Muslim. So instead of the boyfriend giving dawah ilallah and helping the lady and pushing the lady and putting pressure on the lady in a positive way, marrying the lady, he has his family over there and he comes to the party like that. Sulaim, she didn't compromise like that. Sulaim, she said, I'm a Muslim, you're not Muslim. There's an ayat in the Quran in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Allah Ta'ala mentioned وَالْمُحْسَنَاتُ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابِ حِلٌّ لَكُمْ إِذَا أَتَيْتُمُوهُنَّ أُجُورُهُنَّ. Those good women from the Ahlul Kitab, the Jews and the Christians, they are permissible for you to marry. Even if the Christian lady says, Jesus is the Son of Allah, she believes in Easter, she drinks khamr, sharab, she eats pork, even if she brings the Christmas tree in the house, whatever, she's still allowed to be married by the Muslim man. Why? In the hopes that if he gets married to her, the lady is usually going to follow the man, she'll embrace al-Islam. As for the Muslim man who has the non-Muslim lady who's the girlfriend, then that's a problem. So, from the ways that people came into Islam back then, and they continue to come into Islam, is through marriage. Some of you who are older, some of you have sons, relatives who want to marry Christians. I say you shouldn't be of the people who are closed-minded and they say, no way is this ever going to happen. It is disrespect to the tribe. You shouldn't be like that. Allah has allowed that individual to marry that person, and a lot of times some of those people have good akhlaq. And many times when they do become Muslims, they're better practicing Muslims than people who were born and raised as Muslims. So if you find yourself in that position, consider it, help it, look into it. If you have something to do with a person becoming a Muslim, that's one of the greatest forms of ibadah in al-Islam. The Prophet told Ali ibn Abi Talib, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, radiyallahu anhu, لِأَنْ يَهْدِيَ اللَّهُ بِكَ رَجُلٌ وَاحِدٌ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنْ حُرُمِ النَّعَمِ. Ya Ali, if Allah guided one man because of you, through you, by you, that is better for you than having the red camel, which was the epitome of wealth to the Arabs. Now what I'm telling you now is, my son comes and says, this Christian girl, I want to marry her. I'm going to say, A'udhu Billah. Well, what do you mean? You have cousins, you have all these, but I find out that that person is a decent person. We're going to give it a chance. We're going to look into it. We're going to look into it. We have to look into it. As for him marrying the lady while she remains a mushrik, other than Christian or the Jew, Sikh, other than that, then there's no room for negotiation in this thing. So I want to bring that to your attention. From the ways that the people came into al-Islam during the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is do his dua and do the dua of other people, as dua is the weapon of the believer. Does anyone know here a companion who came into Islam as a result of the dua of the Nabi? Anybody know? You. Umar radiyallahu anhu. Umar came into the deen because of the dua of the Nabi, who asked Allah, oh Allah, guide or help al-Islam. Allahumma izz al-Islam bi ahad Umarain. Help al-Islam by one of the two Umar. Umar ibn Khattab, Amr ibn Hashim, Abu Jahl. Allah guided Umar. Who's another one? Everyone wanted just Umar. His story is quite famous. Aywa. Abu Hurairah. Abu Hurairah's mother used to curse the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She used to say some bad things about Rasulullah, to the point that it affected Abu Hurairah and caused him to cry. He didn't take a hammer and hit his mother in the head with it. He didn't punch in the face. He didn't swear at her. He just handled it. He swallowed it and walked away. He came to the Nabi, he was crying. Rasulullah said, what makes you cry? He says, my mother is saying bad things about you constantly, Ya Rasulullah, I can't take it anymore. He said, go back to your mother and do good to her. When he went back, he heard the water dropping in the house. Someone was taking a ghusl, taking a shower. She said, Abu Hurairah, stay in your place. She finished taking the ghusl, she came out, she took the shahada because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua for Abu Huraira's mother. And today as well. Like for an example, someone says to you, Akhi, make dua that Allah guides my parents to Islam. What's wrong that the Muslim can't make dua for an example? We can't make dua that Allah Azza wa Jal guide those kuffar who are oppressing the Muslims, the leaders of these countries that are oppressing the Muslims. What prevents us from following the sunnah of making dua for leaders who oppress the Muslims, like Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl? The Prophet made dua for them. If you say this to some people, they want to blow you up. They'll blow me up. The Nabi made dua to Allah to guide those people who are oppressing Islam, oppressing the Muslims. Umar radiallahu anhu, they said when he became a Muslim, Al-Islam became strong on that day. Now when a person becomes Muslim, Al-Islam is what benefits him and embellishes him. It's not the other way around. So Muslims have it backwards. Mike Tyson, if he becomes a Muslim, Al-Islam helps Mike Tyson. But the way people look at individuals and personalities, if he becomes a Muslim, it's going to affect a lot of people. Some of these famous musicians and actresses and actors, when they become Muslims, it affects the people because people are into personalities. What's wrong? Why Muslims don't make dua? That's the sunnah of the Nabi. But in being fair and just, he used to also make dua against the people who used to oppress the Muslims. He used to make dua against the people who would oppress the Muslims. So the point is, the dua is a weapon. From the ways that people came into Islam back then, and they continue to come into Islam right now, is from the miracles of Al-Islam, the miracles of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they were a lot. I just mentioned one to you, one of the famous ones that affected a lot of people from the Nasara, from the Christians. There was a companion. This man was a companion. He memorized Surah Al-Baqarah. He memorized Surah Ali Imran. Al-Fatiha, Al-Baqarah, Ali Imran. He memorized Surah Al-Nisa. He memorized Surah Al-Ma'idah. Those are some large surahs of the Quran. He memorized them. In addition to that, he used to be one of the people who wrote the Quran when it was revealed. Everyone couldn't read and write. There were a few people. Ali ibn Abi Talib, Muawiyah. This man was one of them. If revelation would come, Rasulullah said, come. And you have to write down what the revelation was that was revealed. This man was like that. Some Christians came to him and he apostated and left the religion of Islam. Became a Catholic, became a Christian. He was a companion. So that means your baby that you're holding, you, me, no one is guaranteed that you're going to die on Al-Islam. You shouldn't take your religion for granted. I was born a Muslim and that's it. Shouldn't be like that. People have fallen in love with people and lost their religion because of that. People have taken drugs and they fell into the realms and the grips of drugs and they lost their religion. People became psychotic. They changed their mind and left Al-Islam. So we have to do the things that will keep us in Islam, having the back. From them making dua to Allah to establish us, making dua for our children, learning the religion, things like that. Anyway, this man, companion, he saw the Nabi open his fingers and the water came out. He saw that. He saw the moon split. He saw that. Miracles. He saw that. That man, he saw the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam talking to the camel and the camel talking to him. He saw those miracles. He sat and ate with the Nabi and he heard the fool saying Subhanallah, Subhanallah, and he apostated and left the religion. When he died, his companions from the Christians, they buried him. The next day they came out, they found the man's body was outside on the ground. The kuffar from the Christians said, look at Muhammad and his companions. They're so upset and angry that the man left their religion that they dug his body up and threw him out on the ground. What a sacrilegious act. They dug him deeper than they did the previous day and covered them up. The next day, His body was out on the ground. They said, look at Muhammad and his companions. They're really upset that the man has apostated. He should have freedom of speech, it's democracy. If you want to be a kafir, you could be a kafir, it's okay. They dug him deeper, and they put some cement type material over the grave so that nothing can happen. And they put people there to watch the grave. Allah Azza wa Jal, who is in control of the hearts, He is the one who causes people to go to sleep and to wake up, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hadith is inside al-Bukhari. He caused those people to go to sleep who were guarding the grave, and the body was thrown out the third day. When the Nasara came, they said, this is not from Muhammad and his companions, this is from Allah. And they became Muslims. They became Muslims based upon that mu'jiza. The man, how did he die? How did the man die? The man who left this religion, he was kicked in the head by his horse. He was next to his horse kicked him in the head, and the man died. Because he apostated from the deen of Allah. His punishment begins in the dunya before the hereafter. Now, there are miracles that still happen right now, like the miracle of the Quran. Out of all of those miracles that the Prophet had, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the camel talking to him, that's small. The water coming out of his finger in the desert so the people can drink, that's small. The food saying subhanallah, that's small. The moon split it. One side of the moon was on this side of the mountain, the other one, that's small compared to the Quran. The Quran is the greatest miracle of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the greatest miracle. He says sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Ma min nabiyyin illa utiya ma amana alayhi an-nas, wa innama utitu al-Quran, fa arju an akun aktharuhum tabi'an yawm al-qiyamah." There was no Nabi except that he was given ayat that will cause his people to believe in him. Musa split the Red Sea. He hit the man with the cow, and the man stood up and started talking. Isa spoke in the cradle. He gave life to the dead. All of the prophets and the messengers, they had these miracles, all of them. For what? So that the people will have no doubt. He's not a charlatan. He's a real Nabi, Rasul. He said, I have been given the Quran. And as a result of that Quran, the biggest miracle, I hope that I have the majority of the followers Yawm al-Qiyamah. So the Muslims, we have a responsibility, ikhwani, to expose these non-Muslims to what is inside of the Quran. We won't be able to do that if we ourselves don't know the Quran. Inside of the Quran is knowledge that it was impossible for someone to know 1400 years ago. It's impossible for that knowledge to be available to him. 1400 years. He manufactured that. In the Quran is the knowledge of the embryo. How the baby develops in the stomach. In the science, in the Quran is knowledge of oceanography. What's going on in the ocean. How the Nabi know things as detailed as that, and other than that. So, when the Muslims expose these issues to non-Muslims, they get an appreciation for the Quran. But if we look at the Quran as, again, a symbol, hocus pocus, you're just going to use it as a ta'weez, that's it. You're just going to put it on the highest shelf in the house, that's it. We won't read it, we won't memorize it, we won't contemplate the message of the Quran, other than the message of the Quran. My time, I went over the time. Last thing that I want to mention, and actually without mentioning anything new, but I want to reiterate this. As you brothers are sitting here, and you sisters as well, you came into Islam because of your parents. Because of Allah through your parents. If you're not an obedient son or daughter to your parent, then there's not much khair in you. The greatest gift that a person can have is the gift of al-Islam. That's the biggest ni'mah. Allah said that in the Quran. الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي. Today I completed for you your religion, and I completed my ni'mah on you. The biggest ni'mah is al-Islam. So they gave you the gift of life by Allah's permission. And in addition to the gift of life, they gave you Islam to help you to navigate through this life. They may not have been the most knowledgeable people. They may be difficult people even to get along with. But they have a position in this religion, and one of those reasons is because they gave you this religion. They gave you this religion. The Nabi was sitting with his companions. He said there will be 70,000 people who will enter into Jannah without any adab and any hisab. They won't be questioned what did they do, why they didn't do it. Nor will they be punished. He got up and he went into his house. They started speaking amongst themselves. Who do you think those 70,000 are? They must be some special people. The first group people said, they must be the companions. They must be us. His whole ummah, because no one's better than us, the companions. The next group said, maybe they're the people who were born in Islam and raised in Islam. Unlike some of us, the companions, who buried their daughters alive, who drank khamr, they committed zina, they did a lot of crazy things. Whereas the children, when they grow up in Islam, they're not going to make as much zina as the people who didn't have Islam. They're not going to drink as much khamr. Some of them will make zina, some will make khamr. But usually that won't be the case. The parent gave him a built-in shield. Unlike the kuffar, part of their religion is drinking khamr. Christians, they do a ceremony in which they drink wine. They say the wine is the blood of Jesus. Symbolic. They eat a cracker, the flesh of Jesus, and then they drink wine. And they give the wine to 10-year-old kids as well. So on Christmas, Easter, they're getting drunk. That's part of their religion. The Muslim knows from day one, khamr is haram. His parent gave him that. So the point of that hadith is, why would the companions say, maybe those 70,000 people are the ones who were born in Islam and raised in Islam? Why would they say that? Because there's some virtues that come along with being born and raised in Islam. For the person who doesn't take it for granted. It's not enough to just be born in Islam and you just, my name is like that. But the point of all of that is, you brothers and sisters, you have to pay homage, give thanks to Allah Azza wa Jal for that ni'mah, and also respect your parents, as we mentioned in one of our darses previously. So with that, we're going to bring this to a close. We went over 5 minutes, inshallah. If you brothers have any questions, inshallah, you can put your questions forward. We'll deal with them. فكان عندكم شيء إن شاء الله. You guys have any questions? Okay then. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.